More makeup does not equal more coverage when it comes to your Seint IIID Foundation. So today, I'm gonna teach you two ways to apply your makeup. One, what I find to be the most effective way to apply the traditional Seint IIID highlight and contour, and then how you can get better coverage by making one small tweak to your makeup routine. Neither of these methods is right or wrong, but they serve a different woman or maybe a different purpose for the same woman, depending on how you're feeling about wearing your makeup that day. Welcome, guys. For those of you that are new here, my name is Sammy George, and I teach simple and effective makeup for those of us that have imperfect skin. So if you are new here, I would absolutely love if you would hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss a thing. And as always, I'm thankful that you're here. If you are new to my page and you're like, what is Seint IIID makeup? It's this right here. It's one palette. This is my entire makeup bag, customized into one small palette. All of these shades are picked specifically for me. My makeup routine is built specifically for me, and I will do that for you. That's like the benefit of having a Seint artist, is you have somebody to help you not only navigate what shades do I use, but how do I place them in order to get the look that I want? And it's cream foundation. So if you're used to using a liquid foundation, one of the benefits of switching to cream as we age or as we deal with a lot of discoloration in the skin is that it doesn't dry down. So your liquid foundations are gonna have water, they're gonna have alcohol, and that is going to evaporate throughout the day. That's why if you've ever worn a liquid foundation and you feel like throughout the course of the day, it doesn't look as good as it did in the morning. In the morning, it looks beautiful, glowing, radiant, but as the day goes on, it loses the water and the alcohol. It's called transepidermal water loss. It happens to all of us. And what you're left with is pigment. And it's that pigment that attaches to our texture, to our dry spots, that causes that creasing and cracking underneath the eye, where cream is emollient. It doesn't dry down. So it's going to move with your skin. It's going to leave your skin feeling hydrated, looking glowing. And as we age, that's one of the things that we tend to lose out on, is the youthful, dewy, glowy looking skin. So for me, I changed over to Seint when I turned about 35 and started dealing with age spots, sunspots, some post-children skin issues like rosacea, and then I had hormonal acne, all the things. So I have very imperfect skin, and I didn't want to wear a heavy layer of liquid foundation. It just wasn't for me, but I did want to feel confident in my makeup, and that meant covering up the things that are distracting to me without wearing a ton of makeup. That's how I found Seint. And I'm going to show you two different methods today, because if you're familiar with Seint, there's a very standard method of application that you see on the internet, and it's the method that I started with. And it's not a bad method. It's actually a really great method to understand highlight and contour. When you're looking at Seint IIID Foundation, these three shades right here actually make up your foundation in its entirety. It's meant to highlight, so add life and vibrancy to certain portions of the face, and contour is going to allow us to define and create some structure in the face. So it's the combination of these colors right here, worn in one layer, that make up the traditional Seint application method. Who is that application method good for? Anybody who is kind of new to makeup and just wants a better look than that one all over flat look that we get from liquid, or sometimes you put on a BB cream and it's beautiful because it evens out your skin tone, but then you don't have any cheekbones, you have kind of like an all over flat look and you're looking for something a little bit more. Or it's great for the Seint starter. And then I'm going to show you an application method that is great for the woman like me who wants to wear less makeup but does want a little bit more coverage to reduce those areas that are distracting and get their makeup to last all day. When talking about the traditional highlight and contour method, let's keep it really simple. I'm going to use one brush today. I highly recommend that you start with the blush and bronzer brush because it allows you to use less makeup as a starter. The number one issue that women have when they start with this makeup is they apply too much, because we're just used to applying a liquid foundation kind of in a layer all over the face. And this is meant to be applied very lightly and built up if you want it. So let's break down what we have here. These two right here are called highlights. This is your contour, and this is a dual purpose lip and cheek. In traditional makeup land, this is the shade that would most closely match your skin tone. You'd consider it your foundation. This is the one that's going to lighten and brighten the areas in the center of the face. You would typically call this a concealer. And then you have your contour and your lip and cheek. This is the traditional four that you'll see a lot of people on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube start with, because it allows you a simple highlight and contour method. The cool thing about this method right here is we're actually going to start with our contour, and that's going to take up a rather significant portion of the face. This is how you end up wearing your makeup in one layer. After we contour, we're going to brighten in the center. And then this shade here, which most closely resembles your skin tone, which you're used to calling your foundation, is actually going to be like the least shade that you use in this method. Think of it as more of a bridge shade, the shade that brings everything together, but this is not one layer applied all over and then everything built back in. So let's get started and I'll show you this method. Using the blush and bronzer brush, I'm gonna squeeze this together and I'm gonna pick up some product here on the brush. And now I'm gonna start contouring. So where do we contour? We contour around the top of the forehead, the cheekbones, underneath the jawline, and even down the nose and under the lip if you so choose. And we're keeping it really simple, right? So hug the hairline, pull this up into the hairline. So if you're like me and you have a little bit of a receding hairline, throw a little bit of contour there. And what this is gonna do is it's going to cause this area to recede. Darkness recedes, so the cheekbones are gonna look more sculpted, your forehead is gonna look smaller, your jawline is going to look more snatched. That's the beauty of contour. It creates definition and sculpts the face. So if you have a smaller forehead than I do, maybe you skip contour on the forehead altogether, or you just stay a little bit closer to the hairline. Because I have a larger forehead, I don't mind a little bit more contour, and I will even sometimes start at the peak of my brow here and kind of fill this in just a little bit. And because it's cream, you guys, it blends very seamlessly. This is not difficult to blend. Actually gonna blend very little with this method, okay? So we've created some definition here and you'll see it's already creating a little bit of a brightness to the center of the face. That's the look we're looking for. We wanna brighten here in the center, cause a recession on the outside. So go ahead, I'm gonna squeeze that again. Make sure I have some product on the brush. And now when we're looking to contour the cheek, go to the top of your ear and find your cheekbone. You'll notice that it rolls here. And if I have people tell me, they're like, I don't have a cheekbone. Girl, it is there, I promise you. It's where this recession is right here. So go to the top of the ear. You're just gonna follow that cheekbone to the outer corner of the eye. So I have my brush pressed together. And now I am just tapping that on right here. So we've created this contour line and now we're gonna blend it. In order to blend it, all I'm gonna do is flick up. So now that line that looked really sharp and a little bit distracting is now easily blended, but we have started to create that definition in the face. Same thing under the jawline. I'm gonna squeeze my bristles so that I don't get it into my blush. I'm gonna go to the back of my ear and I'm gonna go underneath that jawline, just like this, and go ahead and pull that down the neck so that you don't have any harsh lines there. And that is simply step one, contour. For step two, we're gonna go to our brightening shade. When you are brightening, here are the areas that we are typically brightening. And I'm using my finger because I want the smallest amount of makeup, and I tend to have really good control with blending this in this way. I'm gonna go to the center of the forehead, down here, a little bit here, and a little bit here. Now I want you to think of your brightener as your concealer. But remember this, the reason that we don't love a heavy concealer as we age is because contrary to what we have been taught, you don't actually conceal with a light and bright color. That's why we don't call it concealer. We call these highlights, okay? This is actually going to add light and bright underneath and around the eye. Like you'll see, I don't have any here. So I'm just gonna add a little bit into this space. And it's going to create that beautiful light dimension. And I'm using my finger because I want the least amount of product, because light over texture and darkness emphasizes texture. And if you're like, what the heck, right? So when we're younger, we're used to creating more of this V-shape, heavy concealer under the eye, and it works. And why does it work? Because we have very little texture and honestly, probably very little darkness under the eye. It's not until we age and our skin changes that we start to have more of these distractions, more of the dark pockets that you see here, the redness that you see, sometimes melasma, hypo or hyperpigmentation. Any of those skin color issues tend to come with age. So while this is beautiful, and this is the one layer method of highlight and contour, if you go too light or you wear too much, it's only going to emphasize texture. So if you are somebody who is currently using Seint and you're just using these traditional 4 shades and you find that your darkness pops through, or that you're thinking, okay, I still look dark, so now I'm going to apply more, you may really benefit from this method that I'm going to teach you on this side, because here's what I was saying. More makeup over here is not going to give you more coverage when the issue is color. Whether that's darkness under the eye, redness on the cheeks, when you have a color issue on the skin, we need to take care of that color issue first, and then you can apply still a very light amount of that brightening shade to get a pop of brightness without emphasizing texture, wrinkles, or that darkness. So this method is still great. I just want to offer you an opportunity to get a little bit more coverage and teach you something different over here. So let's finish up. The reason that I said that your main highlight shade right here is going to be more of a bridge color is because if you look right now, the only area that I need to apply this, if I'm applying in one layer, is right in here, right? So we can put a little bit of my main shade right here. I'm going to do a little bit below that brightener, up around that contour line, and a little bit in this area right here where I don't have contour, and on the chin. And now I'm going to use the blush and bronzer brush to just blend this all together, and we're basically done. So taking the small end, I'm literally just kind of tapping and pressing to make sure that that main highlight shade buffs into my contour line. And remember, it's more like the bridge color. It's the color that's bringing together my contour and brightener. It's not an all over foundation shade if you truly want to use the 1 layer method. And why the 1 layer method is good is because typically more makeup equals increased texture, issues with our skin, but that's if we're using more of the same color. Meaning if I were to just apply a heavy layer of this main highlight shade all over, it wouldn't give me better coverage. It wouldn't decrease the look of texture. It would just look like more makeup. And at that point, it would feel cakey and heavy. So in this method, you really just want to apply your contour, add your brightener, and then in those pockets of space, fill in with your main shade. And this right here is the highlight and contour method. I'm going to drop a graphic in here so you can see, like, this is the traditional Seint graphic that shows how you wear it in 1 layer. So you'll see there's an area reserved for contour, for brightener, for your main highlight shade, and then you'll see lip and cheek. And of course you can always add extras like bronzer and illuminator, but in its most basic form, we're just talking about these 4 shades. So the only thing left to do then is to add a little bit of blush. And we're gonna go outside apple of the cheeks, up that contour line, and there we go. It's still a beautiful application method, but here's what you will see. It doesn't do the greatest job of covering up this acne and acne scarring or this pocket of darkness here. So do I use this? Not often, because I know other methods and I'm equally as fast because I've practiced. But I did when I first started. And this was much better than what I was doing before. I also like this on a very simple, like, run out the door, like almost like no makeup day, where I just want to add a little bit of definition to the face. Before we move on to method number 2, how we're going to get more coverage while still wearing very little makeup, I want you to know that if you are doing this method and you're not getting good coverage, it's most likely that one of 2 or both of these 2 things are true. 1, your colors are too light. We are very used to wearing colors lighter than we actually need as we age. We tend to need a shade a little bit darker. The lighter the color, the more texture is going to show. So if you immediately put your shade on your face and your pore size is increased, your texture looks more significant, and your darkness is not covered at all, your shade is too light. Or your shade might be fine if your pore size is not increased and your texture is only increased in the areas where you have skin discoloration of some sort. By incorporating a color corrector, which is what I'm going to show you next, and targeting the darkness, the redness, the excess or lack of pigmentation in the skin first, and then applying your traditional makeup, you can get it to last all day. It's not gonna break up, it's not gonna fade. So if you ever notice that your makeup 2 hours in looks like the color underneath is starting to pop through, then you wanna reach out to your artist and find out, is my shade too light or do I need to incorporate a color corrector? When I'm talking about incorporating a color corrector, I'm actually talking about a third highlight shade as opposed to demi color correctors. I find that if you can get the right highlight shade as a color corrector, and this is something that your artist will know, you don't have to know this, the application is even easier than demi. While demi is great and there is a place for demi, and you can certainly incorporate demi into your routine, you can use a highlight shade, and it tends to be a simpler application and learning process for somebody to get really good coverage that lasts all day. So reach out to your artist and find out about a highlight color corrector. For me, my highlight is Mango. And what you're gonna see is this shade is darker than my skin tone, right? My traditional color right now that I have a little bit of a tan is Sandy. Sandy is very neutral. It is the closest color to my skin tone. If I want to match and color correct the discoloration in my skin, I need to do so with a shade that is darker and has a color correcting quality, which means it has a little bit of an orange base to it. Orange color corrects blue. It's a color science to it. And typically this redness that we see in the skin has a blue and purple undertone. And while I'm nerding out a little bit, that's the explanation as to why if you target the discoloration on your face first and take care of that darkness, then you can apply your makeup, use those 4 colors that you have and get a really flawless finish because you took care of what was bothersome first. So let me show you how I do it. I am going to apply my shades in a little bit of a different order because I'm looking for coverage as opposed to just one layer. And what I have found, like I said before, is if I use my colors in thin layers, a thin layer of color corrector with a thin layer of my main highlight, I can get better, longer lasting coverage than just simply applying more and more of these shades onto my skin, which for me doesn't correct my discoloration long term. And it just looks cakey and honestly makes my skin start to feel tacky throughout the day. Like my hair will stick to it. If your hair is sticking to your makeup, you definitely are using too much product. It should always feel like it's almost melted into the skin. So what I'm gonna do first, you can use your finger. My preference is to use the small end of either the blend brush or the detail brush. And I am going to pick up, when I say the smallest, I mean one teeny tiny tap of my color corrector, and I'm going to target the areas of discoloration first. For me, it's this darkness under my eye. So right now I'm reducing that darkness, and I'm doing this one like feathery light tap at a time. If you put your color corrector on and you see the color, you have too much. It should be so light that it literally just creates the coverage over that redness. Do you see how that scar on my nose is like gone? Now I'm gonna do the same thing with these broken capillaries. So corner where I have darkness, feathering it down that scar, broken capillaries. I have this redness here around the nose, and I have a very red chin. So I'm just using a little bit of product. Now, I could either use a teeny tiny brush or my finger. I'm gonna tap on to this acne and some of these acne scars. And now I'm gonna go to the blush and bronzer brush, the same brush that I used before, to take care of this larger area because it'll just be faster. Small end of the blush and bronzer brush, one tap. You see how little makeup is on there? And now I'm just feathering this on. I'm barely touching the skin. I'm not smashing the bristles. I'm just doing what's called buffing. And I'm putting it on any area that I see that larger area of redness. And this is going to color correct the redness just like it took care of that discoloration under the eye. But it is going to be overall too warm for my skin because it's not meant to be worn alone. Your color corrector is worn underneath your main highlight shade. It's the combination of the two that give you the magic finish that you're looking for. So your darker color corrector zaps out the discoloration, and then this shade right here that most closely matches your skin tone is going to be worn on top of that and anywhere else that you want coverage. So right here, maybe that forehead area, a little bit out here by the temple, those same areas before. So anywhere that you color corrected, plus the same areas here before, and now everything can match. Because we took care of the darkness, it's not gonna pop through. So I'm gonna take that small end of the blush and bronzer brush, see that one tap? That's how small, minimal amount of product that I'm using. And now I am pressing this on. So we haven't done our contour yet, and I'll tell you why in a second. But this is the jawline area. One tap into the makeup, one tap into the area, covering up the area on the chin where I put that color corrector. Remember, on top of the color corrector and anywhere else that you want coverage. Where else did I color correct? The redness in my cheek. So I need to tone down my color corrector and bring this back to matching my skin, all while getting better coverage that's going to last all day. For the area around my eye, you can use your finger, you can use that small end of the detail or the blend brush, and I'm just pressing on. I want you to notice when I did my color corrector, I did this buffing motion or feathering. Now that we've put our color corrector down, we are going to press on our main shade because our color corrector was placed strategically. We don't want to blend the two shades together, and we don't want to move the color corrector. So put it on. It can be all willy-nilly, okay? Just put it on light enough that you don't see any drastic color corrector color popping through, and then press on your main shade. This one you need to be a little bit more strategic, and you'll see it has toned down the redness. It has color corrected the darkness underneath the eye. You can add a little bit to that same forehead area here. My contour will take care of the rest because the beauty of your highlight and contour, they all have coverage. One thing about contour that I think is important to consider. Let's say you only have some darkness under the eye that you want to correct, okay? So you're going to put your color corrector here. You're going to cover it up with your main shade. You don't need to put your main shade in your contour area unless you have put a color corrector and your main shade there. So what do I mean? Right here, we put it right on the skin because it gives coverage. The reason that I don't put my contour directly onto my face first is because this is a color concern area for me and I need to color correct it. So in order for my contour not to look patchy or not to pop through all of this, I need to put those other colors down first and then I can come in and contour. But that's just me. You, like I said, may only have a pimple that you want to take care of, or an acne scar that needs color correction, or just the darkness under your eyes, in which case you don't need to layer where your contour is. So it is purely customized to you. When you get a color match, I will take care of all of this, knowing whether you need a color corrector and knowing how to apply the shades. So what order? I'm going to drop this face right here. As you can see, marked in blue is where I need color corrector. That's where I have darkness, redness, acne, and acne scarring. That will be a picture of your face marked in blue. After you tell me the issues that you want to address, if a color corrector is needed, I will provide you a graphic of your face of where to put it. And then a step-by-step, put your color corrector on, press your main shade over top. As you'll see next, we'll do contour and it will go in that order. So one size does not fit all. One makeup application does not fit all. If you choose to, you can buy your color corrector and not use it every day. If this right here is good for you on the majority of the days, rock on. If you're like, no, I have an event, a wedding, I have an acne breakout, like something is really bothersome to me, then you'll have your color corrector in your arsenal for those days that you want a little bit more. But what I find is that the people that find me tend to have some sort of skin color that bothers them. So when they reach out, they almost always want to color correct darkness, redness, whatever their issue is. So if they tell me, I want the simplest makeup application, Sammy, what a lot of artists will do is they will recommend the traditional Seint IV. I will not, and here's why. This will not give the woman with darkness under the eye or redness or acne or melasma the lasting coverage that she is telling me she wants in her color match. So what I will do instead to keep it super simple is I will recommend 4 shades, but they will be different. It'll be your color corrector, It will be your main highlight shade that most closely matches your skin tone. So it'll be this application right here, and then either a contour or a bronzer, totally up to you, and a lip and cheek. You can always come back for a brightener later. You can come back for a bronzer later, for a contour, whatever the additional ones that you want, you can always add to your makeup routine. These tins are only 16 bucks a piece, and they're magnetized. So when one of them runs out, you're only replacing one. These are not pre-built. These are built specifically for you and your needs. So when someone tells me, keep it as simple as possible, but I want to feel more confident and my darkness or my redness bothers me, my simple 4 is not the traditional Seint 4. It's the 4 that I just mentioned. And the thing is, you can do anything that you want. Like, it's your makeup routine. I just want to be able to provide you with the resources and kind of the explanation of how to get the results that you're looking for, whether you want it super simple or you're like, I want it all. I want the illuminator, the bronzer, give me eyebrow colors. It's completely customized to you. So let's finish up here. We did our color corrector, we did our main shade. Now let's add a little bit of contour, and I'm just tapping the brush in. Your contour is drier, so it may take more pressing. And I got it in my lip and cheek here, so we're just gonna wipe a little bit of that off. It may take a little bit more pressing to pick the product up on the brush. So now, same thing, I'm going around the hairline. I am flicking up into the hairline, so we're creating that dimension. I'm tapping on that edge so that it's nice and blended, and I'm doing a little bit right here by the brow. And now you'll see with both sides contoured how we have this brightness here in the center of the face, and we're really getting that 3-dimensional look that Seint is known for, and it's still really light-handed. Now, top of the ear to the outside corner of the eye, I am pressing my contour on. And because I took care of that redness underneath, it's not gonna pop through in 2 hours. I'm not gonna see that same acne and acne scarring. I mean, you can see how much my contour is already faded here. And that is what happens when you don't take care of the darkness underneath first. I hear it all the time. I can't see my contour anymore. My shades are breaking up through the day. Can you help me get better coverage without applying a whole ton of makeup? And yes, we can. So, oh, wrong end. So all we're doing now is flicking up. We've created that beautiful cheekbone, back of the ear, underneath the jawline, bring it down the neck. I could probably use a little bit more. There we go. And you guys remember, these are creams. They're going to keep blending. So you don't need to be nervous. If you're like, too much contour, just keep pressing on it. Pressing and flicking, you could essentially blend it away by over blending it. There are no mistakes because it doesn't dry down. Now that we've done our color corrector, main shade, and our contour, it's time to brighten. So I'm gonna use, again, you could use your finger just to keep it the same. I'll use my finger. And here's where I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go underneath that discolored bag that we've already color corrected it. So now I don't need to use my concealer to conceal it. I can use this, remember it's actually called a brightening highlight. Now I can use it to just brighten up the center of the face, and I can use the smallest amount of makeup and get a light and bright under eye without increasing the look of texture because I took care of the darkness first, and now I can just use this for a little pop of brightness. And while you look at these side by side right now, you're not gonna see a ton of difference. I think it's most evident along the jawline where you can see, because I have acne scarring on both sides, and you'll see this just looks a little bit more, I guess, a little bit more chiseled, a little bit more specific of a placement, if you will, but you will notice 3 to 4 hours later that this side still has amazing coverage, where this side is gonna have kind of broken coverage. Like in these areas right here, I'm not going to have the same coverage as when I started. Little center of the face, down the nose. So we're just kind of duplicating what we did on the other side to show you that brightener goes. Now here's a magic step that you do not, I promise you, you will not love your makeup as much if you skip this. This is the Perfector sponge. What it does is it removes excess and it blends everything together. And when we're layering, the last thing we want is to have too much makeup in any area that we may be prone to creasing, like underneath the eye or in these smile lines here. Plus, it really gives everything a final blend so that your colors like meld together really seamless. Like, do you see how it really just softened that contour line even a little bit more? That's the beauty of this sponge. You won't have excess, it won't be cakey, it won't be tacky, yet you will still have really good coverage. Before we move on to lip and cheek, we want to make sure that we use our perfector after your color corrector, main foundation shade, contour, and brightener step, because all of those provide coverage. They are a coverage formulation. Your lip and cheeks, your bronzers, your illuminators, those are all sheerer products. They don't provide coverage. They're just meant to add color to the skin. So you want to use your perfector in between those and this next step, which we're going to do, which is we're just going to add our lip and cheek. 2 fingers away. Okay, so let me look forward and do that for you. 2 fingers away from the nose. What's going on with this hair? Smile, outside apple of the cheek, and then take it up the contour line. This is gonna give you a lifted look, but you're also gonna get a fullness to the cheek here. And remember, we're multi-faceted, like we're multi-dimensional. We're gonna look different ways throughout the day. So if we only put our blush here, when we turn here, then it just stops. We have nothing here. If we only put it here, then you're only gonna see it when you're looking this direction and our cheeks are gonna look naked, right? You can put your blush on the outside apple of the cheek and build it up to as much color as you want. Take it up that contour line and have both a look from the front and a look from the side. So that's it, friends. 2 different application methods, and there are more. You can apply this makeup in so many different ways. I encourage you to try a multitude of ways and see what you like the most. Do you like it with a brush? Do you prefer using your finger? Do you like a color corrector every day? Do you need a color corrector? There are so many different things that you can do, and the goal is to find what works best for you. Because like I said before, while it would be amazing if that one viral Seint method that you see where people just paint the colors on their face and do a little something like this and they come back and they have this flawless look, if that worked for everybody, that would be amazing, but it doesn't. And I'm somebody who it was good, but I wanted a little bit better. And by changing up my method just a little bit, I was able to find it. So if I can be helpful to you, you can always reach out. My email is in the description below. Of course, you can drop comments below. And if you need a color match, the link to get one is below too. And did you know? We also have lots of shorts on this page. So if you ever drop off the video section, go check out the shorts where we upload quick eyeshadow looks, 2-shade looks for hooded eyes, like simple makeup tips and tricks, lots of goodness for somebody who likes to learn or catch something like really quick. And then obviously we have this long form content to serve you and really be a place to educate and to be a resource. So as always, thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you found this helpful, and we'll see you next week.